at 4. And from 4, I want to leave the time for group presentations. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so we're just done with the plannings for the presentations. Now we will move to the preparings for the presentations. Yeah? In the presentations, first, we need to identify what kinds of the presentations it is. Or in another ways, understand the presentation style. Some presentations are informative, and some presentations, are persuasive. Some are face-to-face, and where others are, virtuous. Some perform before big audience, and where others are given to a small group. And some are in details level, and some at the simplest one. Okay, so at first, we need to identify what kinds of our presentations is before we move into knowing the purpose of the presentations. You know that regardless types of the presentation, the presenter must prepare very carefully, to ensure that the presentation is effective. And the most important for effective preparation is designing what presenters want to accomplish. So the first thing, identify what presenters would like to accomplish. Do you want to sell this product, or you want to provide details informations? Do you want to propose the increasing budgets of the marketing activities, or you want to propose new idea? So what exactly you want to achieve? And whether you also have, must have the clear ideas whether you are going and what you want the listeners to remember or to do after your presentation. The first is knowing your audience. You gathering the information of the audience in order to analyze the audience. And audience is actually key elements in presentation. Is analyzing the audience, understand them in order to anticipate their reactions and adjust your presentations to their needs. The next slides will be, typically presentations, types of presentations in business. It can covers from very brief to details, we call briefings, or details, we call report presentations. It can be in form of podcasts, or in forms of virtual presentations or webinar. Now, webinar, Zoom has a webinar, but what we are conducting here is Zoom only. The webinars actually is furthermore than it is with full functions. And then you see here, the last one. Oh, where does it go? Oh, I think it's here. Wow. We have planning, we have analysis, we have the gathers. We haven't touched the media channels yet, coming soon, and we are now in organizing the information, right? So organizing the informations here. A lot of efforts and time consumed when goes to the organize the presentation. So what will be there in organized presentation? But first, you have to define the main ideas, like develop the outlines for the presentation. And regardless of the overall approach you take, whether it's make it details or brief or so on, a successful presentation always starts with clear statements of the main idea, or name, or themes of the presentations. And, so understand it, So you need to define your main ideas to your presentations too. The second is limiting your scope. We also need to be clear about the scope of the presentations to ensure that the presentations fits the allotted or distributed time and content is satisfy the audience needs and expectation. Otherwise, you can be effective. Why? Because you must work within the strict time limit. So you need to scope your presentation. And the second, the longer you speak, the more difficult it is to hold the audience attentions, and also more difficult for you as the presenters. And after that, we need to select your approach. Whether your organization is short, so it will provide very simple, brief memos, or it will be long, the whole project we call the report or the proposal. And then based on that understanding, we start to outline our presentation. The outlines will help the organization, will help us to organize the message and it serves as the foundations for delivering speech. It will illustrate the logic of the contents. We will have the main points, the major point, and then we have the main point, and then we have the sub points. Everything's been put in logical order. So that is the overall organize the presentations. And now we will move to the develop the presentations. That is the planning. And now we'll move to the develop of the presentation. Now, all those we I don't know what is your habits when you do presentations. But for myself, I never write words, never write words and then or notes, and to read it. So, however, they suggest that even the presentation is oral, but you still engage in writing process in order to develop the idea, structuring support points and phrase your transitions and so on. So in developing the presentation, the first you adapt to your audience. You gather a lot of information about the audience, like the group force. Group 4 come up with very detailed information. So try to gather as much as information about the audience. And why we have to do it? Because we want to adapt to the audience needs and expectations. So the size of the audience, the venues, the subject, the understanding level, the purpose, the budgets, even the time available for the presentations, all these kinds of things will influence to the style of your presentation. So if you speak in a small group, in particular, the people that you know, so you tend to structure the presentations to be a casual one. And you may sit together with the participants. And delivers the presentations, or if you you conduct the presentations in the large audience, the event is important. So in that case, you should establish more atmosphere rather than the casuals and warm one. Okay, so that is the way you adapt to your audience, right? The next one, you need to craft the presentation's content. So normally in any presentations, you also structures into the three elements, three components. The first is when you start introductions of the presentation. The second is body, key informations. And the third one, when you are about to summarize this, we call close presentations. So now we will look in details of this, of each stage. Okay, in introductions. Now, normally, what do you do in the introduction? Try to recall what you have done in the past, what normally you do. Because this is the very first moment you come to the audience. To many audience, this is the first time they see you, and also the first time you see them. Okay, so the first moment, it will come up with the impression. So whether you can create very good image of yourselves or very, good impressions in the audience eye, or opposites or not. This one is important because if they think that you are knowledgeable, their behaviors will be different. Behaviors of audience will be different. Their reactions will be different. But if they doubt, if they think that you are not knowledgeable, they doubt about your knowledge, they will, give you quite a hard time. They tend to argue. They tend to put the not constructive, the questions. So therefore, the first moment you see the audience is very important. The first thing you need to do is to try to get the audience attention. Try to get the how are you going to how are you going to get the audience attention? The topic itself can make S1, but however, the subjects are different. Some subjects are more interesting. It's easier to attract the audience, but some are not, right? Some are not. So, don't realize on this. We need to use some like imaginations to pull the audience to you. Okay, there are several ways to do it. One technique that I use is to come up with the startle, numbers. Like, at the beginning, I give you 74%. Yeah, so you guess what happens if I put like a 500 years. Is there any, anyone associates the 500 years with anything? 500 years. Nhưng một kỹ thuật mà cô sử dụng đấy là dùng các cái con số, gọi là các con số làm cho chúng ta phải giật mình. Chúng ta không bao giờ nghĩ nó như thế, đúng không ạ? Đấy, ví dụ như là cái số bên đấy cô dùng là 74%. Thế bây giờ khi cô đưa ra con số là 500 năm thì chúng ta sẽ nghĩ sao nào? 500 năm thì chúng ta nghĩ sao? Đây có ai có ý kiến gì không? Associate with anything? 500 năm chúng ta nghĩ liên tưởng đến gì ạ? Lớp đâu nhỉ? Oh, where are you? On the class sleep? 500 năm chúng ta nghĩ gì nào? 500 năm. Con số 500 năm thì làm cho chúng ta liên tưởng đến gì không? Trúc nào? Thanh Trúc. Are you there, Trúc?
Em đây ạ.
500 năm em có nghĩ đến gì không? 500 năm thì Trúc sẽ nghĩ đến cái gì nhỉ? Liên tưởng đến cái gì nhỉ?
Em sẽ nghĩ đến em vẫn chưa nhớ
không liên tưởng đến
biết chọn cái gì.
Không liên tưởng gì. Anh Quân à? Anh Quân nghĩ đến gì à? 500 năm thì mình sẽ nghĩ đến gì nào? Sao mà dài thế hả? Anh Quân có thấy không? Anh Quân? Ủa? Anh Quân gone đó. Anh Quân gone somewhere. Ok, bạn Đăng Thành nào. Bạn Đăng Thành nào. Đăng Thành có đấy không?
Dạ.
Đăng Thành nghĩ gì? 500 năm em nghĩ đến cái gì? Thành nghĩ đến gì? Liên tưởng đến gì? Thành đâu? Ô, Thành ơi, em unmute đi. Không nghĩ đến gì à? Sao con số gì mà nó dài thế? Có nhiều người thấy ủa 500 năm là mấy thế hệ rồi đấy. Bao nhiêu đời người chứ không phải là thế hệ. Tính đến thế hệ thì phải 200 thế hệ. 25 năm người ta tính một thế hệ. No ideas, Thành. Rồi, let's move to the others. Bạn Ngọc Linh đi. Trần Thị Ngọc Linh. Ngọc Linh có đấy không em?
Dạ có ạ.
Ngọc Linh nghĩ liên tưởng đến gì em?
500 năm ạ. Em không biết nữa.
Không biết nữa hả?
Tây Du Ký ạ.
Vâng.
Tây Du Ký hả?
Vâng
Bạn
ạ.
nói Tây có phải 500 năm không? Tây Du Ký là 500 năm à? Em?
500 năm ở Ngũ Hành Sơn của tôi cũng không ạ.
Ok, good, đúng không? Rồi, đấy, 500 năm ở Ngũ Hành Sơn của Tôn Ngộ Không. Thực ra nó rất nhanh, đúng không ạ? Tôn Ngộ Không bị giam ở đấy 500 năm. Very good one. Ok, good. What about the others? Nào, xem nào. Bạn Ngọc Mai nào. Ngọc Mai có ý kiến gì không nào? Nguyễn Thị Ngọc Mai nào.
Em chỉ thấy thời gian nó dài quá thôi ạ.
Dài quá luôn đúng không hả? Dài thì sao? Dài thì em liên tưởng đến gì? Mà em nghĩ nó dài nhiều người thấy ngắn à? Nhưng Ngọc Mai thấy dài bằng.
Tại em nghĩ là 500 năm thì như cô vừa bảo ấy ạ, kiểu có kiểu rất là nhiều đời người nữa. Kiểu
Rất
nhiều
nhiều
thế
đời
hệ ạ.
người, đúng không ạ?
Vâng.
Rất nhiều thế hệ đúng không ạ? Chúng ta biết là một thế hệ người ta tính là 20 trên 25 năm. Bây giờ chắc là nó phải dài hơn. Tại vì sao chúng ta biết không? Tại vì chúng ta đều lấy lập gia đình muộn cả. Trước đây là người ta lập gia đình còn từ 20 tuổi là người ta đã lập gia đình, là 20 25 tuổi đã lập gia đình rồi. Đấy. Bây giờ thì lập gia đình muộn hơn, cho nên là một cái thế hệ của chúng ta nó có thể là gì ạ? Là dài hơn, lên 30 năm. Nhưng tính một lúc at the majorities, đúng không? Ok, very good. The last person, xem nào, the Kim Ngân nào. Kim Ngân có đấy không?
Có ạ.
Kim Ngân nghĩ sao em?
Em cũng chỉ nghĩ đến Tây Du Ký ạ.
Các bạn rất thích Tây Du Ký đúng không? That is good, you know. That is a good linkage. Nhưng chúng ta có biết không ạ? 500 năm là cái quãng thời gian cần thiết để gì ạ? Để chúng ta có thể phân hủy được một cái túi ni lông mà các bạn dùng mua đồ ở chợ. Ta thấy lâu không? Mất 500 năm thì nó mới có thể phân hủy được hoàn toàn cái túi ni lông đó. Các bạn thấy khủng khiếp không ạ? Ok. Ở đây chúng ta đang nói đến kỹ thuật gì? Chúng ta đang nói đến kỹ thuật để làm sao mà chúng ta có thể thu hút được sự chú ý của người nghe, đúng không? Đấy thì khi vào chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu có thể là đưa ra những con số rất đáng giật mình. Người ta không bao giờ nghe tới. Chủ đề của chúng ta sẽ là chủ đề về môi trường. Và giống như cô bước vào, chủ đề của chúng ta là chủ đề về thuyết trình. Thì 74% những người thuyết trình đều rất lo lắng trước khi bắt đầu thuyết trình. Đấy là những con số nó có thể đi thẳng vào trong tâm trí của cái người nghe. Đấy là một kỹ thuật. Okay, there will be several others too. The second, building the credibilities. Uy tín của chúng ta, uy tín trong lĩnh vực đó nhé, credibilities. Because you know the audience tend to decide within a few minutes whether you are worth listening to or not. So therefore, establishing your credibility quickly is vital, because it will, create the good impressions of the audience. Làm sao mà trong một vài phút đầu tiên chúng ta nhớ là ấn tượng nó chỉ đến một lần thôi, và nó đến ngay từ lần đầu tiên khi người ta nhìn thấy chúng ta và khi chúng ta nhìn thấy người khác. So you walk in the class, you walk into the whole room, okay? Everyone look at you and they start to evaluate you. So they start to judge you, đúng không ạ? Chờ các bạn đây, lần buổi đầu tiên cô giáo đến, tất cả mọi lớp chờ tất nhiên nhìn thấy cô giáo là người ta đã bắt đầu đánh giá rồi. Xem cái cô này ở đây do hình thức như thế này, không biết là dễ hay khó đây, cứ đoán già đoán non, đúng không ạ? create first impressions. Cô như này thì làm sao mà dạy hay được chẳng hạn. For example, như kiểu như thế của chúng ta, so similar to the other audience also. So therefore, you need to build very fast your credibility. Ta biết rằng đây là nó chỉ đến từ impression thôi. Còn your credibility, of course, if you had and you fails to, develop it since the first eye, the first few minutes, it's okay. If you are accompanied with them a long time, there will be so many other opportunities to show up your credibility. However, it's more challenge. Okay. So if you are a well-known person, so definitely it's there, credibility is there. If you have someone, who will introduce to you, that is good, because normally they will introduce, they will talk about your achievement, right? Đấy chính là cách để làm gì thu hút được cái sự chú ý, để cho những người khác người ta tin tưởng vào cái bài nói chuyện, vào cái presentation của chúng ta hơn. Người khác giới thiệu là tốt nghiệp ở đây đạt được những thành tích này, that is good, okay. But however, if there is no one, introduce, so maybe you should take these opportunities to introduce about yourself. So you introduce yourself, and of course, it is you can introduce your real achievement. That's okay. That's good. No one thinks that you are showy. Showy means that you always talk about yourself, always talk about your successful, always talk about your accomplishments. But here, now the first time you see, it's okay to share with them some of your accomplishments, right? Okay. So maybe it depends on the audience. Maybe the student, they want to hear about your qualification. That's why share it. Okay. So that is the way you do in the presentation. Now previewing the message. So in addition to getting the audience attentions and establishing your credibility, a good introductions about what will be discusses, what will be discusses in an hours or in next 2 hours or the whole morning, for example. So basically we will summarize the main ideas of your presentations. So that is the suggestions, the practices with the successful presenter. So that is in the introduction. So that I share with you several tips in order to get the audience attentions. Here is just the different ways to draw the audience attention. So it depends on the audience, it depends on situations. It depends on you too, and also which kinds of tip you think work well with you, and if you can do it naturally, you use it. Metaphor, that is the first thing, Metaphors is the comparisons between dissimilar things without the words like or as. For example, my desk is garbage dump, for example. Here is example. Our competitor CEO is a snake when he comes to negotiating. Very smart, but keep it in secret. No one knows. Snake, immediately, people will imagine this. So that one we call metaphor. Analogies. That is a comparison of similar traits. Similar traits between dissimilar things. Okay. For examples. So we compare we compare, we also compare things to dissimilar things. And here they compare product development. Product development is something similar to conceiving, carrying, and delivering the baby. See how amazing. So you can see that, working in the product development is not easy, but the outcome is worth. Not personalized statistic, that is technique I use. I don't know. Yeah. Personalized. Yes. Yeah. Personalized statistic. Yeah. Statistic that affect the audience like 500 years. Yeah. Like this and that. Yeah. Very, look around very close to the audience, but they didn't pay attention to it. Sometimes it makes them a shock. That is another technique. Worst to best case scenarios, you seems develop the scenarios for the audience. If they don't do, or if they do, so this they do. If they don't do, if the worst scenarios would happen. If they do, the best scenario, something. A personal story or personal anecdote. Telling story, a lot of people like it. Because it's like the real experience of that person, the experiences. They tell it naturally. It's so attractive to the audience. So you can think of the real things happen to you, or you can take the other stories to tell in the front of the audience. That is fine. Similar comparisons that include words like or as. Here we use like or as. And before we without the word like or as. Okay. She is happy as someone who just won the lottery. Okay. So there is several techniques. I believe there is still more, you can come back with the art. You can start with the art action, just to draw attentions of the audience. Right, so that is the introductions. Let's move to the body. The body is the main reasons why the audience comes to you. So you are going to share the information, but actually that is idea. So you need to sort out, work out, how are you going to guide, to lead the audience, to the objective that you want. What will be first, what will be second, what will be a third. So by doing so, you are the ones who know, but you need to connecting all such kinds of things in logical way. We call connecting the ideas. And one of the challenge in the presentation's body, that is how to hold the audience attention. How can you do that? A successful introductions will have to gather the audience attention. But now the body of the presentations need to hold that attention too. It's not at the first moment or first minutes. There are several, the helpful tips for keeping audience, focus on your message, including, keep relating your subjects to the audience needs. If we are talking about this one and you think that the audience also like it or have some concern on it, so you relating things to the audience needs. Anticipating answers like likely questions as you move along, the people don't get confused, So you ask the question and you anticipate the question, and you may, use the ways to articulate it. Use a clear, vivid language and through sums in a variety. You repeating the same words and phrase over and over, to set forth, in the presentations, we should the same meaning, but we use the different words, make it, interesting. And shows how your subject is related to the idea that audience members already, understand. So give the people ways to characterize and memorize your point, your idea. If appropriate, you can encourage the participants by asking or give the command. That is typically, way a lot of people do. Or we need to illustrate our ideas with visuals. Okay. So such kinds of things, we need to practice regularly, naturally, in order to hold the audience attention. So that is the presentation's body, and to the presentation close, about to close. You re-emphasize or restate the main points. In the bodies, you already, explained it. You say it and explained it. However, we move so far and talk too many things. It is time to re-emphasize the main idea by restating it. And ending with the clarity and the confidence, right? So make sure that your final remarks are memorable and expresses in a tone that is appropriate to the situation. So that is the presentation's close. So the second content here, we focus on develop presentations, and now we move to how to enhance our presentations with the effective visual. I believe that you are a 4.0 citizen. For you, using the effect visuals is a simple, and in reality you use it, but without paying attention to it. Okay, so enhancing the presentations with effective visuals. First, we have to decide the structures of the slide. Whether you can use the structures of free form slides. Structures, that based on template, and that will give the slides in the presentation the same general look. And with the free form slides are much less rigid, interchangeable, and emphasize visual appeal. However, the free form slides often, less content per slide comparing to the structural slide. So you decide which one you will know about it. Okay, and then for the creating, designing the effective slide. But first, you need to pay attention in designing slide around the key visual. So this is example. This is designing slide around key visuals. You see, this is a key visuals in the center, and you have the slide surrounding it. Okay? So it will help the audience visualizes better. Okay? The second is writing readable contents. So the size, the font size should be big enough, and also not much of words. How are you going to put the wordings? Whether it's readable or not, whether the sentence is long or simple, is full sentence or is phrase. And creating charts and tables for slide. Charts and tables for presentations needs to be, simpler than visuals for printed documents. So details image that look fine on the printed page, but it can be students, too complicated in the presentation. And try to put the information, user charts and tables to put the informations in. It will, demonstrates better linkage among the content that you share. Design, select design element. There are a lot of things inside here, such as the colors, which colors it should be. As you create the slide, you pay close attention to the interactions of the color. Whether the color is associated with which emotions of the audience. The artworks, the typeface and type styles and so on. And finally, we add animations and multi-media like sounds for our slides, animations, but not too much, otherwise it can cause a distraction. Now you see here is an example. Before we more focus on the content, that is fine, because that is the first thing we need to make decision. So one with confidence with the contents, we will make it better. Like use more image. You see the image first, and then the words below. Right, so you see here is before revision and after revision, expecting that the afters will be much better than the first one's full of wording. Now I mentioned to you the relations between colors and emotions of the people. For emotions of the people here will focus on audience. You see the blue. It was, many people associated to the peaceful, to the soothing, to the tranquil. Tranquil is like a peace, cool, trusting. So why not using it? All good associations. White, it will associate with neutrons, innocence, pures and wise. So if you have some product you think that they are, let's say, it's good for the people, or let's call it organic. So we can use the white colors, white packaging for that product. Yellow stands for warm, bright, cheerful, and enthusiastic. And red is for associated with the passionate, dangerous, active, and painful. Green normally associates with assertive, prosperous, envious, relaxed. Okay? So it depends on you which colors are you going to, to select for your presentation for the slides. And here is checklist. If you want to enhance presentations with the visuals, you go to details of each item in these 4 characteristics, 4 categories. From the planning, the presentation visuals, to the choose the structures of free forms, slide, design effect slides, and finally we will complete the slide and support the materials. Now we move to the complete the slide. See here, D, complete the slide. what you need to do. So to complete the slides, we first will finalize the slide. So you never done the revisions until you finalize it. Finalize is to see how good it is before we revise. We go for the checking. Yeah. So what we finalize the content of the slide and especially the slide's title. Slide title, never forget the slide title. Every slide should have its title. Okay, and because it helps to have the better understanding in terms of logic of presentation. And the second one is choosing the presentations, creating the effectiveness, creating the effective hands-outs. And the third one is choosing the presentations methods. This one have mentions to you before. So you identify whether it's the symbols or it's complicated. It's too many people or less people, and choose the appropriate presentations method. The finals is the practicing your delivery. We call rehearsal. Rehearsal is so important, it's the essentials, Practice will boost your confidence and you will memorize a lot of things. So you may not need to depend on the notes of your presentation. So see here, you see the finalized slide. I use the previous examples. When you go to finalize, of course, you should spare enough time for you to make revision. So you see the slide after present revisions much better than the one. Oh, here is something similar. Here they use the bullet, 1 to 5, and then they will switches to more we call diagram, and of course it looks much better. Okay, I think that's it so far. I will pause here. There's still a couple of slides more, but because that one it requires the discussion, so I pause here and we switch to the another objective today, that is the group presentations. Do you need a rest couple of minutes to prepare for your presentations? Hello? Yeah? Chúng ta có cần một vài phút để chuẩn bị cho cái phần trình bày của nhóm không? Nhóm ơi, lớp đâu?
Có.
Thế thì để cho các bạn mấy phút, 5 phút nhá. Để chúng ta chuẩn bị đi, các nhóm chuẩn bị đi nhá. Chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu từ nhóm 1 nhá. Nhóm 1 and move on to the group 6. Chúng ta có 5 phút để chúng ta chuẩn bị.